7:22. It's Elliott and Toni at breakfast, BBC Hereford Worcester.
Now, it's been described as the worst treatment scandal in the history of the NHS. A public inquiry opened earlier this year, hearing from people who were infected by contaminated blood products in the 70s and 80s. It's expected to last 2 years and looks at how patients were given infected blood products, how the authorities responded, and whether there was a cover-up. Today, Ros Cooper from Hartlebury will give evidence alongside her mum, Juliet Batten. Ros has a bleeding disorder and was infected with hepatitis C as a child, but didn't find out until she was 19. Our reporter CampaignTB has been to meet them both.
That's a press cutting, you see. This is the kind of thing we were up against. And Rosie being brilliant at actually speaking to people. I don't know, that was
90-something?
1998. Yes, and that was Manchester Evening News or something.
Oh, wow.
We adopted Ros when she was 12 weeks old and she was perfect. She was in a little pink dress and she was smiley and lovely. And then when she was 8 months old, we discovered she'd got this severe bleeding disorder. So she had to go to hospital in Manchester an awful lot for injections of clotting factor. And somewhere during that time, we don't know when, the horrible viruses were around, and one of them, the Hep C, got into Rosamond's blood through a blood treatment, which was horrendous, and we've had an awful lot of difficulty coping with that on top of the bleeding disorder.
When were you first aware then that something wasn't right?
Well, basically, I'd gone down to London from living in Manchester. I'd gone to London to have an operation because they were specialists. And as I was getting ready to have the operation, I was sat in my gown, ready to go down, and I was having a chat with the surgeon beforehand. And one of the things he mentioned was the fact that I'd got hepatitis C and I knew nothing about it. So it was a complete shock to me. And it was only really after that that I then sort of started thinking, well, what does this mean? And most importantly to me, why hadn't I been told before by my actual carers that had been looking after me for a number of years that I'd got something like this?
Just tell us what your health has been like then since you were 19. What's life been like?
The bleeding disorder obviously has been sort of around ever since I can remember. And that's got a big impact because it's a serious, severe bleeding disorder. When I found out I got the hepatitis C, it was a completely different thing. It was a game changer because at that time, there wasn't a lot of information, but the information I was being told was that it was a killer and that I could get liver cancer and I could be dead. It's had a huge impact. And the state of play at the minute is that I'm not well enough to have a job. I have a lot of physical and mental side effects. I've been depressed. I haven't been able to have children, which is something I really wanted to do, even though it would be difficult with a bleeding disorder. It was something that I was determined I would do. That's been a devastating blow for me.
As a mother, how do you feel when you hear your daughter talking like this?
It's just heartbreaking. We sat in the cafe one day when she came to meet me and we just sat and cried. Her life is not like her peers. They're all running around having, lovely jobs and families, and Ros is stuck at home, really.
And you'll be taking to the stand at the inquiry as mother and daughter. You'll be able to do it together. What are you hoping to get out of that?
I've got questions I would like to ask. I mean, I'm very angry at successive governments for just ignoring us totally. And I would love a proper apology.
What we've yet to see is any evidence from anybody that's been accused of anything. I hope that this will mean an end to it, because what we'd all like to do, those of us that are left, is try and have some semblance of a normal life for the remainder of our lives.
So our reporter with Ros Cooper from Hartlebury, who'll give evidence alongside her mum, Juliet Batten, today as part of the contaminated blood inquiry.